All right, thanks, guys. Stefan Storch takes on Noah Shakhter in a 4 p.m. Eastern start time. Storch is minus 120 with the total set at 13.5 games, slightly juiced to the over. And if you like Shakhter in a slight upset, he's currently minus 110 on the money line and minus 130 catching the half game. And before we go ahead and break this one down, I just have to quickly remind you once again that we improved to 7-2 yesterday in our last 9 Dog of the Day tier membership plays on patreon.com/BrockPage. And of course, that's a website that I operate that gives you premium daily sports picks beginning at just $1.99 through the end of the month. And yesterday's Underdog tier membership winner is going to improve our record to 10-3 in our last 13 Underdog tier package plays on that website as well. We're also currently 9-2 with a push in our last 12 daily extra pick tier package plays on that website as well. Good for 82% during that span. We'll get to talking a little bit more about that in just a second. But before we go ahead and move on, let's go ahead and dive back into this Storch-Shakhter matchup in the International Tennis Series. And if you like Shakhter, or if you think you're leaning towards Shakhter in this spot here, just keep in mind he's coming off a tough 2-1 loss to Stefan Storch in his last outing. He's also dropped 3 out of his last 4 matches, including an embarrassing 2-0 shutout to Adam Elmadawi. He only won just 1 game in that entire match. Meanwhile, on the other side, Storch has won his last 2 straight, including a 2-0 shutout of Jaime Bueno Tapia during that span. Storch is currently on a 3-match win streak and has been victorious in 5 out of his last 6, good for 83% during that span. Now, total-wise, 3 out of Storch's last 5 matches stayed under the total of 13.5 games. Meanwhile, on the other side, 2 out of Shakhter's last 3 stayed under that number as well. Matter of fact, 4 out of their last 6 also stayed under the 13.5 as well. Might not be too bad of a spot for an underplay. All in all, I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Stefan Storch minus $1.20 and the under 13.5 in that contest. Next match, Felix Corwin taking on Nick Amarjit in a 4:40 p.m. start. Corwin's the massive $8 favorite with the total at 12, juice to the over. And if you like Amarjit in an upset, he's plus 475 on the money line and minus 135 catching 4 games. And speaking of Amarjit, he's coming off a tough 2-0 loss to strong Kirchheimer, where he won just 3 games all match. He also lost his last 2 straight, including an embarrassing 2-0 loss to Paolo Lorenzi, where he failed to win a game in the entire match. His 4-match losing streak is amongst the worst in the division right now, and his pathetic 1-7 record in his last 8 is good for just 12%. He's taking on a Corwin opponent who's coming fresh off a 2-0 victory over Jaques, holding Jake to just 2 games won in that matchup. Corwin's currently on a 3-match win streak with victories over the likes of Elmadawi and King. Now, total-wise, 2 out of Corwin's last 3 stayed under the total of 12 games. Meanwhile, on the other side, Nick Amarjit saw his last 2 straight stay under that number himself. Matter of fact, none of Amarjit's last 4 contests got over that number either. Might not be too bad of a spot here for an underplay as well. Give me Felix Corwin minus 4 in the under 12 games in that match. All right, next and final matchup for the show, it is going to be Felix Corwin right back on the court. This time taking on Noah Shakhter in a 5:20 p.m. start. Corwin's the $1.65 favorite with a total at 13.5, heavily juiced to the under. And if you like Shakhter in an upset, he's plus $1.25 on the money line and minus 105 catching the goal and a half. And speaking of Shakhter, we already faded him once at the beginning of the video, and I have no qualms about doing it again. He once again is coming fresh off a 2-1 loss to Stefan Storch in his most recent outing. He's also dropped 3 out of his last 4 matches, including an embarrassing 2-0 shutout to Adam Elmadawi. He only won just 1 game in that entire match. Meanwhile, Corwin on the other side is coming fresh off a 2-0 victory over Jaques, holding Jake to just 2 games won in that matchup. Corwin's currently on a 3-match win streak with victories over the likes of El Madawi and King. Corwin's also defeated the likes of Wojcik, McCormick, and Martinez within the past week. His 10-5 record in his last 15 matches is good for a win percentage of .667. He also shut out his opponent in 8 out of those 10 victories. Now, total-wise, Corwin's coming off 2 straight matches that fell under the total of 13.5. Matter of fact, Corwin's last 5 straight matches all stayed under that number as well. Meanwhile, on the other side, Shakhter saw 2 out of his last 3 stay under that number himself. Meanwhile, 4 out of his last 6 matches also stayed under the 13.5 as well. Might not be a terrible spot for an underplay here. Give me Felix Corwin -1.5 and the under 13.5 in that contest.